Alright guys, we gotta talk about Pokemon here again today. Since they had another one of their little Pokemon Presents videos. And they gave a big info dump on both Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And the Pokemon Legends Arceus game that's coming out. This is the first real info dump we've had on these games since they've gotten announced back in February. Other than, they did show the box arts at one point earlier this year, but the box arts didn't have anything new on them, so there wasn't really much to talk about. Now, this happened like 2 weeks ago at this point, so this video is very late, but I've just been dealing with a lot of bullshit and haven't had time to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it now. To make up for it, I will be being slightly less of a lazy ass than I usually am, and I'll actually put up images of the things I'm talking about instead of just me running my mouth about them the entire time. So, anyway, they opened the presentation with about 5 or 6 minutes worth of them talking about their mobile garbage nonsense, which no one with an IQ above room temperature gave a fuck about. But anyway, after that, they got around to talking about the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and they showed a lot of features. Most of them were stuff that is just returning from the original DS games, and some of which was new stuff. So one of the first things they showed, which I'm honestly pretty surprised that they actually included this, was trainer customization is returning, which is very nice since, if you remember in the last remakes we got, which were Aurus, those games did not have trainer customization, and their excuse at the time was that the original games didn't have this feature, so we're not going to include them in this game in the remakes either, which is a complete bullshit excuse, but that's what they went with at the time. So I was expecting them to pull the same crap this time, and fortunately they didn't. They are having the full trainer customization return, including picking your skin tone and eye color at the beginning of the game. They also made note that the store where you can buy the different clothes is going to be in the same building where the game corner used to be in Veilstone City. So it's nice that they're actually replacing that with something instead of just having it be an empty building or something. Now, one thing that is not confirmed, but the way they made it look in the video at least, was that it looks like all of the outfits now are one piece, and you change all your clothes and everything all at once, instead of, in previous games you could change your shirt and pants and hat and whatever separately. It appears like your entire outfit is one thing now and you change it all at once. So that might be slightly more limiting than it was in previous games, but I guess we're doing good for it to be there at all. So trainer customization is coming back. One of the other things they showed, which is something that personally I'm not as, I don't place as much importance on, but I know a lot of people really love this feature, is following Pokemon is returning. So they showed several scenes of that with your Pokemon following your trainer around everywhere you go. It doesn't seem to be limited to any certain area or anything. It looks like just wherever you are, you can have your Pokemon following you. So, people that put a lot of stock in that, you have that feature there. Next, they showed how they're revamping the Super Contests, which are now going to be called Super Contest Shows. Which, this seems similar to the way they revamped the contests in Aurus. They still basically work the same, with the contest conditions and everything. But they changed around the performance part of it a little bit. They've added in a rhythm mini game during the performance section, which, is fine, I guess. I don't really have any strong feelings about this one way or the other. But that's some of the changes they showed. So then, one of the more important things that they showed, one of the more interesting things, at least in my opinion, was they showed how they're going to be revamping the Underground, which, again, has changed names. It's now going to be called the Grand Underground. And this looks pretty cool because it showed all the features that you would expect from the Underground. It's still got the secret bases, and it's still got the little mining mini game and everything like that. But a new thing that they are adding, which is actually a really neat idea, they're adding things to the map, little areas called Pokemon hideaways. So in these areas, they're like little hidden locations that you can get to through the underground. And each one of them is like a different kind of environment. They showed a grassy one, and they showed an icy one, and a fire one, and like different ones. And in each one of these areas, there's a few Pokemon running around, which they're overworld encounters in here. So, people that like to jack themselves off to overworld encounters can go nuts. But you can go into these little hideaways and find certain Pokemon that are actually exclusive to these areas. Which Pokemon appear in these areas actually changes, and you can influence it based on which statues you put inside your secret base, which is the thing that they really focused on when they showed the bases. So I honestly don't know that the little like capture the flag minigame that used to be in the bases, I don't know if that's still going to be a thing or not. I don't even know if fully decorating your base with anything besides statues is still going to be a thing or not, because they only showed you placing statues in it. So, anyway, you put these statues in your secret base, and it affects which Pokemon appear in these Pokemon hideaways. And in one of the scenes, they actually showed a Numel and a Sentret running around in the like volcano, lava, fiery area. Which both those Pokemon were catchable in the original Diamond and Pearl. One of them was post game. I think Numel was post game, and Sentret was Pokeradar, if I remember correctly. But neither one of those Pokemon were actually in the Sinnoh regional decks, and neither Diamond and Pearl nor Platinum. So that gives me a little bit of hope. Combine that with the fact that they also showed one of the summary screen. They showed a summary screen for a Bidoof, and its Pokedex number was listed as 399, which that's Bidoof's national Pokedex number. So, one of the things that I'm really still heavily concerned about in these games is, how many Pokemon are going to be cut. We already know that the actual full national dex isn't going to be in. But if you combine the fact that Sentret and Numel are popping up, as well as Bidoof having his national Pokedex number on his status screen, it appears like there's at least going to be the Gen 4 national dex in the game, which would be Bulbasaur up through Arceus, so the first 493 Pokemon. Which of course is how many Pokemon were in the original titles. Which, yes, it would be incredibly stupid for these games to have less Pokemon than the originals, but I would put nothing past them at this point. So, based on that, it looks like we're at least going to have 493 in these games. Which, it's still complete and total bullshit that all the Pokemon aren't going to be in them. But it could be a lot worse, I guess. So that's one of the things that really stood out to me, because that's one of the things that I am still very much concerned about going into these titles. So beyond that, everything else they showed was pretty much stuff that wasn't changed from the original Diamond and Pearl. They showed Team Galactic. They showed some of the other characters, Professor Rowan and Cynthia and stuff like that. Ball Seals. Ball Seals are returning, so that's cool. But all that was largely unchanged from the originals. They did mention a release date, which honestly I can't even remember if they already told the release date or not. If they did, I totally forgot about it. But anyway, these games are coming out November 19th, and they showed that up until February 21st, they are going to have a Manaphy egg event for early adopters, so you can download your Manaphy eggs. So that was pretty much all the info they gave us on the Diamond and Pearl remakes. My position has not changed much on those games. I'm still going to be taking a wait and see approach just to see how much stuff ends up getting cut and whether or not, any of the platinum features are going to be in it. So, what they showed was mostly positive, but it wasn't enough to completely sell me on these games yet. So, again, I'm just going to have to wait and see. So, anyway, on the other side of things, they did talk some about the Pokemon Legends Arceus game as well, which they gave a ton of info on this, and a lot of it's pretty interesting stuff, actually. So, first of all, they said that the Sinnoh region that we're in for this game, since it's the ancient Sinnoh region, is actually going to be referred to as the Hisui region. So it has a new name. Or, I guess technically an old name. But they did say that, and they showed the full map of it, which is drawn in, like an old-timey art style, so that looked pretty cool. They also mentioned that the player characters are going to be named Ray and Akari. The male is named Ray and the girl is Akari. So they look like Lucas and Dawn, but actually they're not. I'm assuming they'll probably be their ancestors or some crap. The one village that is in the game is going to be called Jubilife Village. Obviously the precursor to Jubilife City. Which, yes, this does appear to be the only village in the entire game. Based on the map, it didn't look like there were any other settlements anywhere, unless they pop up later or something. So it looks like this is going to be your one hub village. And in this village, we are going to be joining the Galaxy Expedition team, which is in this building here, which, based on the logo and the name, it's obviously referencing Team Galactic. So you're going to be joining up with this group, and they got different subsections to them. They have a medical corps and a security corps, and then the survey corps, which is the part you're going to be joining, which is the part that is focusing on building the, first regional Pokedex. So they showed a lot of the characters that are going to be in this game. First off, they showed Professor Laventon, who obviously will act as the professor for this game. He's the one who sends you out on your task and gives you your starter and, usual professor jazz. They showed a guy named Commander Kamado, who they explicitly stated to be an ancestor of Professor Rowan, who, you can tell by looking at him, but still, they explicitly stated that. So, he's the guy that's in charge of the Galaxy team, and he's Rowan's ancestor. So, and he's got a great stash. So there you go. The one other person they showed was a lady named Captain Silene, who, is pretty obviously related to Cyrus. They didn't state it explicitly with her like they did with Commander Kamado, but, based on appearance alone, it's pretty clear. So, those are all the new human characters they showed. Don't have a ton to say about them. They're human characters. They all look fine. They're clearly referencing, more familiar characters we know from modern Sinnoh. Next, they did get into the gameplay, which the gameplay has quite a few changes in these games, most of which are very interesting. But first of all, this is something that I speculated about this in my last video when they showed the dodge roll mechanic in the original trailer. And I thought that it would be cool if they actually had the Pokemon able to attack you, the trainer yourself, not just your Pokemon. Which is something that I didn't expect them to do. I didn't think they would have the balls to do it, but they actually did confirm in this video that wild Pokemon will be able to directly attack you, the trainer. And they showed some footage of that happening. So that's really awesome. I didn't think they would actually go through with that, but I'm glad they did, because it's just something that makes sense. So, as you're running around in the overworld, you leave the village, you go out on your mission to, find some certain Pokemon or whatever. You run around, you find Pokemon, certain ones can attack you. to actually catch the Pokemon, again, they showed the same mechanic that they showed in the original trailer, where you can just run up to a Pokemon and throw a Pokeball at them and catch them, which is something that personally I really dislike. I know they've been going really heavily into that more and more the last few years, but I just don't like that. Fortunately, they did show that if you go up to a Pokemon and throw one of your Pokemon near them, then it'll seamlessly enter a battle with them, which is something that I really hope that you'll be able to do with every Pokemon, like have the option to do that for every Pokemon, because that's just the way I prefer doing things. To me, that's the way it should be done. You know, you throw out your Pokemon, you battle them, you weaken them, and then you catch them. I always prefer that better. I think that's the way it should be. And hypothetically, if I were to play this game, then that would probably be the way that I do all my catching. So I hope that's a universal thing that you can do all the time and not just on certain species or something. But they did show that. And then once you actually get into the battles, they showed some of the changes to the battle system itself, which the first thing that they really focused on was the fact that we are now going to have an action order, which, you know, a ton of turn-based JRPGs do this. It isn't something unique in any stretch of the imagination. But the first thing I thought of when I saw that was the Digimon story games, because that's a feature of their battle system. So there is an action order now. So instead of just you take a turn, opponent takes a turn, you know, whoever's speed is higher goes first. Instead, you've got the action order listed off on the right side, and you can potentially take more than one action in a row before your opponent takes one. Or your opponent can take multiple before you get a chance to move again. So that's a first time in the series history thing for Pokemon. Another thing that ties into this, they also said that all of the moves in the game are going to have two different styles that they can be performed in. One of which is Agile style, which lowers the power of the move but increases your priority in the action order. So by sacrificing power, you may potentially be able to move again sooner. And then the other style is going to be called Strong style. You know, insert Japanese pro wrestling joke here. But strong style moves do the exact opposite. They add more power to your move, but knock you back further in the action order, so you'll have to wait longer before you can move again. So, those are all pretty neat changes. It'll be interesting to see how it feels. You know, the battle system never really changes up much in Pokemon games, other than, you know, adding a new gimmick or whatever. But the fundamental mechanics have always pretty much stayed the same. So this is the first time they've ever really tampered with that. So it's going to be interesting to just see how that feels in a Pokemon game, doing something a little bit different. Now, one of my concerns with all the gameplay stuff that they showed was the fact that they emphasized again that this is a time before, you know, trainers were really a thing. So, based on everything they've shown, it looks like there are not going to be any sort of trainer battles in this game whatsoever. It looks like all your battles are going to be exclusively with wild Pokemon, and your only real goal in the game, other than, you know, completing story stuff, obviously, is going to be just focusing on completing the Pokedex, the first regional Pokedex. And one of the things that they showed was that in order to get a complete Pokedex entry for a Pokemon, it's going to be more to it than just catching the Pokemon once and having the full thing like you normally would. Instead, they showed a list of research tasks that you're going to be able to complete for every different Pokemon species in the game. Which, basically what these are, just different random tasks for you had to complete of different quantities. So, like, you got to catch the Pokemon a certain number of times. You have to see it use a certain move a certain number of times. There's all sorts of little different things you have to do, which honestly, most of them seemed like just busy work stuff. A lot of that seemed really like padding in order to, get more game time out of this. So I am concerned about what the gameplay loop on this game is going to look like, because I don't really have much interest in catching like 15 shinks or whatever over and over again. So I'm concerned about how this is going to turn out. The changes to the battle system and stuff seem neat, but as far as actual content and things there are to do in the game, it's still something that at least appears to be lacking at this point. So that's something else that we're just going to have to wait and kind of see how it goes. But I am sort of nervous about that. So anyway, beyond that, a few of the other features that they showed, they said that while you're out and about, you are going to have a base camp that you can go back to and heal both yourself and your Pokemon. And you'll also be able to craft items at your base camp, and they did show a little bit of the crafting system that's going to be in this game now, which is neat. I mean, I always enjoy crafting systems in games. So you can collect materials while you're out and about and use them to craft your own Pokeballs or items or what have you. And they also showed something that appeared to be reminiscent of like Pokemon Camp from Sword and Shield, where you can bring out your entire party at the same time and just kind of hang out with them. They didn't really go into much detail on that, but that's what it looked like to me, at least. So anyway, now we're going to get to the real meat of this, which is the thing that was the most exciting stuff that they showed, which is the fact that we are going to be getting new Pokemon in this game, which they showed both a few new actual species of Pokemon and regional variants, which, if you remember, I talked before how I wished Sinnohan variants would be one of the things that they added in for the Diamond and Pearl remakes. Well, we're not going to get them in the Diamond and Pearl remakes, it doesn't look like. Instead, we're going to be getting them in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And, of course, they're going to be referred to as Hisuian regional variants for obvious reasons. But they showed some of those, which I'm very glad that they did, because regional variants is one of the best things they've come up with in recent history. And it's something that definitely needs fleshing out more. So they showed two regional variants during this, the first of which is Hisuian Growlithe, who is now fire and rock type. And he's pretty cute. He's got more fur, obviously, covering his eyes. He's a darker red color. They said the little horn on his head is made of a rock that breaks off really easily. So I like him. I think he's cute. They didn't show a Hisuian Arcanine. One would assume that would be what he evolves into, but, it could be like a Berserker situation where it evolves into a new species rather than evolving into the thing we always expected it to. So, next, they showed Hisuian Braviary, which is an absolutely awesome design. I always love bird Pokemon in general anyway, but this one's really awesome. He's got a cool crest on his head. He has become Psychic and Flying type now, so he drops the normal type and becomes Psychic instead. And one of the things that they did show during the trailer was that you can actually use Hisuian Braviary to fly around in the game. You don't ride on its back, you sort of hang underneath it in like a hang glider-esque harness thing that it carries around in its talons. So I guess this is going to be the equivalent of your HMs or your Pokéride or what have you. So that's really neat. Now, next they showed two actual new species of Pokemon, which actually brings the total up to 900 now officially. Which, the first of which, I love that they showed this just because of the memes from, the Dexit stuff when Sword and Shield came out. One of the new Pokemon they showed, both of these are evolutions, they're regional evolutions for previous Pokemon. And the first one is Weirdeer. who is an evolution of Stantler, which Stantler's back for his revenge, bitches. You made fun of him for the last time. But yeah, they gave Stantler an evolution, which I think is really awesome. He's normal and psychic now, so he gained the psychic type. He too can be ridden. They showed you riding around on his back in the game, so he can be your mount. I love the design for this thing. I've always loved Stantler in general, and then, the Dixit nonsense made me like him even more just because of circumstances. And this thing I just think is really cool. Now, one thing that I want to bring up here is that if you remember when they did the regional evolution stuff in Sword and Shield, all of the regional evolutions actually evolved from regional variants themselves, which was a stupid restriction. I didn't really agree with that. I think some of them should have evolved from their regular forms, like Surfetched. But they might continue that here, which means Weirdeer might actually evolve from a Hisuian Stantler that we haven't seen yet, as opposed to Jotonian Stantler. Which, again, I hope not. I hope he just evolves straight from Jotonian Stantler into Weirdeer, because I just personally would prefer that. But there may or may not be a Hisuian Stantler that we haven't seen yet either. So anyway, the last Pokemon that they showed was a regional evolution for Basculin, of all people, which is named Basculegion, which this thing looks really cool. It is now water and ghost type, which the story behind this one is actually pretty cool. They said that it merges itself with the souls of all the dead Basculin that died on their way trying to swim upstream. So that's why it becomes part ghost type. I'm like, that's really badass. But this thing's really cool looking. Obviously, you can tell it's got red all over its body, so it appears that this is the one that evolves from a red striped form Basculin. I don't know if there's going to be a different form of this that will be the blue striped version. I don't know if the blue striped version will evolve into an entirely different species altogether. Or, again, it could be a situation where it's going to evolve from a regional variant, and there's a Hisuian Basculin that we haven't seen yet, and Hisuian Basculin don't have the two different colored striped forms. Maybe there's only one kind of Hisuian Basculin. So, who knows? Based on its appearance, I mean, it looks very much like a Unovan red striped Basculin. So, I would think that it evolves from that, but it could be a situation where, a hypothetical Hisuian Basculin just looks very similar to its original form. But anyway, they also showed that you can ride this one too, so this is going to be your surfer, your water transportation in the game. So that's the 4 new Pokemon they showed. I absolutely loved all 4 of those designs. I think they're some of the best designs out of Gen 8. Which, if you remember, I was not a very big fan of a lot of the, at least original Gen 8 designs. The ones they added in the DLC were generally quite a bit better. And now the ones they are adding in this game, at least so far, are quite better too. In my humble opinion. But anyway, beyond that, a few more details of the game that they dropped. They showed some scenes where a bunch of Pokemon were going nuts and their eyes were glowing red and attacking people and things like that. So I'm sure that'll tie into the story somehow. And another thing they showed was that it appears that Pokemon are going to have different sizes you can catch them in now. They showed a screen for a Shinx, and it showed that he had a range on both his height and his weight. And I saw some screenshots earlier. I didn't save them at the time, and now I can't find them again. But there were some screenshots that people did a comparison, and it looked like the size differences were actually visible in the overworld. Like the same Pokemon appeared to be different sizes. So, yeah, that's going to be a feature now. I don't really care, honestly. I think that's some shit from Go. I don't really care. Fuck Go. Fuck everything from Go. So I don't care about the Pokemon being slightly different sizes. I don't know if it's gonna tie into the gameplay and like affect their action order or anything like that. But yeah, I don't really care about that very much. So anyway, again, I don't remember if they already announced the release date for this or not, but they did say that the release date's going to be January 28th, and the early adopter bonus event thingy is going to be a Hisuian Growlithe kimono set, which does also confirm the trainer customization to be in this game as well. So you can download that up until May 9th into your games. So, last little bit of info here that they did mention. They said that all of these games are going to eventually be compatible with Pokemon Home. So, you'll be able to move your Pokemon you catch in these games over to the prison. And they went out of their way to mention that all of the ranked battles and tournaments and like official, battling events and everything, all that's still going to be taking place in Sword and Shield. So, none of that's going to be going on in either of these games, which I think is interesting. Now, I don't expect them to do this because, I just always expect the worst out of them at this point. But, since they are making a point that the ranked battles are still only going to be in Sword and Shield, I really wonder if they're going to do another update for those games and add in at least the new Pokemon that they are putting into Pokemon Legends Arceus. Because I feel like competitive players would be pretty pissed if you got all these new Pokemon to work with and you can't actually use any of them in ranked battles. So that would be something really neat. It wouldn't save Sword and Shield by any stretch of the imagination, but hypothetically, let's go out into speculation land for a little bit here. If they did a huge update for Sword and Shield and not only added in the new mons that they are adding from Pokemon Legends Arceus, but also made those games compatible with all of the Pokemon that are catchable or obtainable in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And we also assume that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl has the Gen 4 National Dex, which is the first 493. That means all of the Pokemon up through Arceus would be in Sword and Shield. All of the Pokemon from Gens 5, 6, and 7 that are already in Sword and Shield would obviously still be there. And then all the Gen 8 Pokemon would be there, including the new ones. I believe that would mean there would only be like 60-something Pokemon left over, because there aren't that many missing from Gens 5 through 7 in Sword and Shield. So if they got that close to finishing it, you would think they would just go ahead and finish it and have the actual complete National Pokedex available, obtainable, usable in Sword and Shield. Now, there'll still be the issue of, not having Mega Evolution, not having Z moves. Hopefully they would add those in too. We don't know if Mega Evolution is going to be in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl or not. They've made no indication that they're going to be. I don't expect them to be. And I expect even less for Z moves to be. But Z moves will need to be added back in too for no other reason than, making Ultra Necrozma obtainable. So, it is the longest of long shots that any of that would happen. I'll still hope for it, deep down inside I will hope for it to maybe finally scavenge Sword and Shield back up to at least a tolerable level. But I'm certainly not going to be holding my breath for any of it. So anyway, overall, most of the stuff that they showed in this presentation was positive. I did like most of the features, but I am not sold on either of these titles yet. My position has not changed. I am still going to be taking a wait-and-see approach on both the remakes and Legends Arceus to see how much is chopped out of the remakes and what the actual gameplay and contents of Legends Arceus is. So ultimately, I was fairly satisfied with what they showed here, but it wasn't enough to make me want to jump on board to either of these games yet. So anyway, I guess that's all I got to say. So lots of luck to you and yours.